The first time I saw Marcus Whitfield, after he destroyed my life, he was standing in Piedmont Park with his arm around the woman who made sure he'd never believe me, and I was pushing a double stroller with his twins, the children he didn't know existed, because I made sure of that. Before y'all come for me, let me explain. And I mean really explain, because this story doesn't have a clear villain, or maybe it has 3. You can decide. 14 months before that day in the park, I was Naomi Carter, 27 years old, engaged to Marcus Whitfield, as in Whitfield Development Group, as in the family that owns half the commercial real estate in Atlanta. Marcus wasn't just rich. He was the kind of rich where people stopped talking when he walked into a room, and somehow, out of every woman in his world, he chose me, a marketing coordinator from Decatur with student loans and a Honda Civic. I loved him. I won't pretend I didn't, but I also won't pretend I didn't enjoy the life. The dinners, the trips, the way people suddenly remembered my name. I'm not going to sit here and act like none of that mattered to me, because it did, and that honesty is important for what comes next. 3 weeks before our wedding, Marcus called me into his mother's living room. His whole family was there. Elena Ashford, his family friend, the woman his mother always wanted him with, was sitting in the corner with this look on her face. You know the look. The one where someone's pretending to be sad, but they're actually winning. Marcus showed me text messages, photos, screenshots of conversations between me and some man I had never met in my life. Explicit stuff. Dates, times, locations, all fabricated, but so detailed it looked airtight. He asked me once if it was real. I said no. He didn't ask again. He ended our engagement right there, in front of everyone. His mother wouldn't even look at me. His sister shook her head, like I'd confirmed something she always suspected. And Elena handed me a tissue and said, "I'm so sorry, Naomi." I'll never forget her voice. Gentle, practiced, perfect. I left Atlanta that night with one suitcase and whatever dignity I had left, which wasn't much. Here's the part where I become the complicated one. 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. Twins. And I sat on the bathroom floor of a motel in Savannah, staring at that test. And I made a decision that some of you are going to judge me for. I didn't tell him. Not because I was scared. Not because I thought he'd take them from me. Although, honestly, with his family's money, he probably could have. I didn't tell him because I wanted him to live without knowing. I wanted him to go to sleep every night next to Elena Ashford, building his perfect life, while his children existed somewhere he couldn't reach. That was the only power I had left, and I used it. Was that wrong? Probably. Do I regret it? I'll get to that. I had Noah and Nora in a hospital in Savannah, alone. No family in the delivery room, no one holding my hand. The nurse held my hand during the worst part, and I remember thinking, this should be someone who loves me, but it wasn't. And when they put those babies on my chest, both of them screaming, both of them looking up at me with Marcus's exact eyes, I cried. Not from joy, from the weight of everything I was about to carry alone. I moved back to Atlanta 11 months later, not for Marcus, for a job, a real one. Senior marketing strategist at a firm downtown. Good salary, benefits, the kind of position I'd been working toward before my life got hijacked. I told myself Atlanta was big enough that I'd never run into him. I thought I'd never have to see him again. Atlanta's a big city, but the universe has a sick sense of humor. It was a Saturday in October. I had the twins in the double stroller, walking through Piedmont Park because Noah had been fussy all morning, and fresh air was the only thing that worked. I was tired, the kind of tired where you forget what it feels like to not be tired. I had spit up on my jacket and dry shampoo in my hair, and I was scrolling my phone with one hand when I felt it. You ever feel someone watching you? Not in a paranoid way, in a real way, like the air changes. I looked up and my whole body went cold. Marcus was maybe 40 feet away, walking the path with Elena on his arm. She was laughing at something, looking perfect as always. Tailored coat, hair done, not a single thing out of place. And Marcus, God, he looked exactly the same. Same jawline, same walk, same way of holding himself, like the world owed him something. He saw me at the exact same moment. For about 3 seconds, neither of us moved. Then his eyes dropped to the stroller. I watched it happen. watched his face shift from surprise to confusion to something darker, something like recognition. Elena noticed him staring. She followed his gaze to me, and I saw the flicker. Just a half-second flash behind her eyes before the mask came back. Marcus pulled away from her and started walking toward me. Not fast, not slow. Deliberate. The way he moved when he'd already made a decision. By the time he stopped in front of me, I had my face together. Years of pain compressed into a calm I didn't feel. "Naomi," he said. "Marcus." He looked at me like he was trying to read something written in a language he'd forgotten. Then his eyes went to the stroller again. They're none of your business," I said. Not harsh, not emotional, just a fact. He flinched. Actually flinched. Elena appeared at his shoulder. "Marcus, who is this?" She knew exactly who I was. But she asked it sweetly, like she was meeting a stranger at brunch. "Someone from a long time ago," he said, still looking at me. I gripped the stroller handle. "Enjoy your walk," I said, and I turned around and left. I didn't look back, not once. But my hands were shaking so hard the stroller was rattling. And by the time I got to my car, I could barely get the key in the ignition. I sat there for 10 minutes, engine running, baby sleeping, trying to breathe. I should have known that walking away wouldn't be enough, because people like Marcus Whitfield don't let things go. And people like Elena, they don't let people go. It started small, the kind of small that makes you feel crazy for even noticing. First, my babysitter quit, Mrs. Henderson. This sweet retired teacher who lived 2 floors down had been watching the twins while I worked. She was perfect, affordable, reliable, loved the kids. Then one Tuesday, she knocked on my door, looking like she hadn't slept. "I can't do it anymore, Naomi," she said. "I'm sorry." "Did something happen? Did one of the kids?" No, the babies are fine." She wouldn't look at me. "Someone came to see me. They said things about you, about your past. I don't want trouble." "What things? Who came?" She just shook her head and closed her door. Then my landlord called. Noise complaint. From who? He couldn't say. But the building had standards. And maybe I should start thinking about other options. My babies were 11 months old. They cried sometimes. That's what babies do. Then one evening, I came home and found an envelope on my kitchen table. Not slid under the door, on the table. Someone had been inside my apartment. My hands were already shaking before I opened it. Inside was a photo of me from the night Marcus ended our engagement. I remembered exactly when it was taken. I was standing in his mother's foyer, mascara running, trying not to fall apart in front of people who'd already decided I was trash. At the bottom, someone had written in neat handwriting, "Some things should stay buried." I sank into a chair and stared at that photo for a long time. And here's the thing. I knew exactly who was behind all of it. Elena Ashford. The timing, the style, the cruelty dressed up as a warning. It had her fingerprints all over it. But I had no proof. And without proof, I was just the bitter ex-fiancé making accusations. That night, after I put the twins down, I sat on my bedroom floor and let myself feel everything. The fear, the anger, the exhaustion. I let it wash over me like a wave. And when it passed, something else was left. Something harder. Because here's what Elena didn't know about me. The girl Marcus threw away, she was gone. I'd spent the last year giving birth alone, surviving alone, working alone, raising 2 babies alone. I didn't break then, and I wasn't about to break now, because some woman with a trust fund and a vendetta wanted to play games. She made one mistake. She thought I was still the same girl Marcus threw away. I wasn't. I started keeping records. Every weird thing that happened, I wrote it down. Dates, times, details. I changed my locks. I set up a camera at my front door, one of those cheap Ring ones, and I started paying attention. Really paying attention. So I did something most people would say was wrong. And honestly, they might be right. My coworker Tasha had become my closest friend in Atlanta. She was the kind of woman who knew everybody. And I mean everybody. Old money, new money, church money, dirty money. Tasha had connections in every circle in this city. And she wasn't shy about using them. I told her everything. The engagement, the fake evidence, Elena, the harassment. She listened without interrupting, which was rare for Tasha. When I finished, she leaned back and said, "So what do you want to do about it?" I want to know everything about Elena Ashford, I said. Who she talks to, what she's planning, and who she hired to mess with my life. Tasha smiled. Now we're talking. Within a week, Tasha had found him. The guy Elena was using. A private investigator named Dale something. Low rent. The kind of guy who'd do anything for the right price. Tasha's cousin knew someone who knew someone. Atlanta's like that. Big enough to hide in, small enough that everybody's connected. I didn't confront Dale. I did something smarter. I had Tasha's people approach him with a better offer. Not to work for me, just to stop working for Elena and hand over everything he had. Text from Elena giving instructions. A paper trail showing she'd paid him to intimidate Mrs. Henderson. Records of him accessing my building. It cost me $3,000 I didn't really have, but it was worth every penny. Now here's the part where I crossed a line. And I know it. Marcus's mother, Diane Whitfield, went to the same hair salon in Buckhead every other Thursday. I know this because Tasha told me. And one Thursday, I happened to show up at the same salon with the twins in their stroller, just a walk-in, needing a trim. What a coincidence. Diane saw the babies before she saw me. I watched her face, watched her eyes land on Noah first, then Nora, then snap to me with a look that told me everything. She recognized those faces. Of course she did. Noah has Marcus's exact jawline. Nora has his eyes. There was no mistaking it. Naomi? She said, and her voice cracked on the second syllable. Mrs. Whitfield, I said. Pleasant, calm, like running into an old acquaintance. She stared at the twins. I could see her doing the math. Her mouth opened, then closed. She didn't ask, but she didn't need to. I could see the answer already forming behind her eyes. I left after 15 minutes, got my trim, said goodbye politely. I told myself it was about protection, that if Marcus's family knew about the twins, Elena would have less power to erase me quietly. But that wasn't the whole truth. Part of me wanted Marcus to find out through his mother. I wanted the information to hit him sideways, in a way he couldn't control. I wanted him to sit across from Diane Whitfield, while she asked him questions he couldn't answer. And I wanted him to feel even a fraction of the helplessness I'd felt in that living room 14 months ago. I told myself it was strategy, but part of it was revenge, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. That's the thing about being hurt the way I was hurt. It doesn't just make you sad, it makes you sharp. And sometimes sharp people cut others without caring who bleeds. And then Marcus showed up at my door. Not angry, not demanding, broken. It was a Thursday night. The twins were asleep. I was on the couch with a glass of wine. I probably needed more than I should have. Going through the files Dale had handed over, organizing everything into a folder. Texts, payment records, timestamps. I was building my case, piece by piece. And then someone knocked on my door. I checked the Ring camera on my phone. Marcus, alone. No Elena, no entourage. Just him, standing there in a wrinkled dress shirt with his hands at his sides, staring at the ground like he didn't know where else to look. I almost didn't open it. Almost. But something about the way he was standing, shoulders forward, head down, like the weight of something had physically bent him, made me unlock the door. He looked up. His eyes were red. Not crying red, no sleep red. The kind of red that comes from staring at a ceiling for 3 days straight. "Can I come in?" he asked. His voice was quiet. No authority in it. No Whitfield polish. Just a man standing at a door he had no right to knock on. I stepped aside. He walked in and stood in my living room like he didn't know what to do with his body. His eyes went to the hallway, toward the room where the twins were sleeping, and stayed there for a long moment before he looked back at me. "My mother came to see me," he said. I said nothing. "She told me about the salon, about the babies." He swallowed. "I did a DNA test, Naomi." My stomach dropped. "You what?" "Through the hospital where they were born. I got access to their records." I compared. "You had no right." My voice came out sharper than I expected. "You had no right to touch their lives without my permission." "I know," he said. "I know I didn't. But I needed to know." He paused. "They're mine. Both of them." I already knew that, obviously. But hearing him say it, hearing him stand in my apartment and claim something he'd thrown away, it didn't feel like relief. It felt like someone ripping open a wound I'd spent a year trying to close. "And," I said, What do you want? A trophy? Elena forged everything, he said. The texts, the photos, the screenshots, all of it. She fabricated the whole thing. She hired someone to create a fake trail, and she fed it to me 3 weeks before the wedding. I stared at him. My chest was tight. My hands were shaking. And the worst part? I wasn't surprised. I had always known it was fake. I had told him it was fake. I had begged him to believe me in that living room while his whole family watched. And he chose her word over mine. I believed her, he said, and his voice broke. I looked at that evidence, and I believed it because it was easier than asking questions. Because my mother liked Elena. Because Elena made sense on paper. And you... He stopped himself. I didn't make sense on paper. I finished for him. The girl from Decatur with the student loans. He closed his eyes. That's exactly what you meant. Silence. Heavy, awful silence. Then he said, I am so sorry, Naomi, for all of it. For believing her. For not fighting for you. For what you went through alone. And I thought that would feel good to hear. I had imagined this moment 100 times. Marcus Whitfield standing in front of me, broken, apologizing, finally seeing the truth. But it didn't feel good. It felt like nothing. Like pouring water into a crack that had already dried shut. You didn't just break up with me, I said quietly. You humiliated me. You made me stand in a room full of people who looked at me like I was dirt. You didn't even let me defend myself. You just decided. I know. I gave birth alone, Marcus. I held my own hand. I sat in a hospital room with nobody. And I brought 2 human beings into this world by myself. Because you chose the wrong woman. He went down on one knee. Not like a proposal. Nothing romantic about it. Like a man whose legs just gave out. I will spend the rest of my life trying to make this right, he said. I looked down at him. Don't promise me a lifetime. You couldn't even give me trust. He didn't get back up. He just stayed there, head down, breathing hard. And then I had to face my own truth. Because he looked up at me and asked the question I'd been dreading. Did you ever plan to tell me about the twins? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Naomi, were you ever going to tell me I had children? The honest answer, the real, ugly, honest answer, was no. I wasn't. Not because I thought he'd be a bad father. Not because I was protecting them. Because I wanted to punish him. Because keeping his children from him was the one thing I could do that he couldn't undo. And I held on to that power with both hands. I didn't say any of that, but my silence said it for me. He nodded slowly. Okay, he whispered. And for the first time, I saw something in his eyes that wasn't guilt. It was hurt. Real hurt. The kind I recognized because I'd been carrying it for over a year. We sat there for a long time. 2 people who had done terrible things to each other for reasons that felt justified at the time. Neither of us fully right. Neither of us fully wrong. Just broken in different directions. I thought that was the hardest conversation I'd ever have. I was wrong. Because Elena wasn't done. 2 days later, I got an email at work. No subject line. Just attachments. I opened it and my blood went cold. It was everything. The fake texts, the fabricated photos, the whole package Elena had used to destroy me. But this time, she'd sent it to my work email. My boss was CC'd, so was HR, and attached at the bottom was a voice memo. I clicked play with shaking hands and heard Elena's voice, clear as day. I had to do it. He was never going to look at me if she was still there. So I made sure she wasn't. She meant it as a final grenade. One last act of destruction on her way out. She wanted my job gone, my reputation gone, everything. But here's what Elena didn't know. I had my own file. Everything Dale had given me. Every text she'd sent him. Every payment. Every instruction. And I'd been holding it, waiting. I didn't go to Marcus. I didn't call the police. I called Elena directly. She picked up on the second ring. Naomi, she said, sounding almost amused. Did you get my little gift? I did, I said. And now, I'm going to give you one. I have every text you sent to Dale Morrison. I have the payment records. I have a signed statement from your private investigator confirming you paid him to break into my apartment and harass my babysitter. I have dates, I have screenshots, and I have a lawyer who's been waiting for my call. Silence. You spent all this time trying to erase me, I said, but I'm still here, and I have everything. She didn't respond for a long time. When she finally spoke, The amusement was gone. Marcus will never. This isn't about Marcus, I said. This is about you and me. And we're done. I hung up. I forwarded everything to my lawyer that afternoon. Within a week, Elena was facing charges. Fraud, harassment, conspiracy. Her family's lawyers tried to make it go away quietly, but the voice memo she'd sent to my office was already in too many hands. She'd done that to herself. The last I heard, she took a plea deal. No jail time, but a restraining order, a settlement, and a reputation in this city that would never recover. And you know what I felt when it was over? Not satisfaction, not victory, just tired. Because when I watched Elena's world fall apart, I recognized something in her that I didn't want to recognize. She wasn't a monster. She was desperate. Desperate for a man who never fully loved her. Desperate to hold on to a life she'd built on a lie. That doesn't excuse a single thing she did, but I understood desperation. I'd felt it too. Sitting on that motel bathroom floor, choosing to hide my children from their father because anger was the only thing keeping me standing. We were different, but we weren't as different as I wanted to believe. A few weeks after everything settled, Marcus asked to see me. We met at a coffee shop in Midtown, neutral ground. He looked different, calmer, but also smaller somehow, like the weight of everything had compressed him. I want to be in their lives, he said. Noah and Nora. I want to be their father. You can, I said. We'll work out a schedule. You can see them. He looked at me carefully. And us? There is no us, Marcus. Naomi, you can be their father, I said. But I'm not ready to be your anything. I don't know if I ever will be. He stared at his coffee for a long time. Will you ever forgive me? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Not the quick answer, not the dramatic answer, the real one. I don't know, I said. Maybe. But not because you earned it. Because I'm tired of carrying it. He nodded. He didn't push. He didn't beg. He just said, okay. We finished our coffee. He asked if he could see the twins that weekend. I said yes. And when we walked out, we went in different directions. No hug, no lingering look, no promise of something more. Just two people who had hurt each other in ways that couldn't be fully undone. Trying to figure out how to exist in the same city for the sake of two kids who didn't ask for any of this. The first time Marcus came to see the twins, he sat on my living room floor and just watched them play. He didn't try to hold them. He didn't try to be dad. He just sat there, very still, like he was afraid that if he moved too fast, the whole thing would disappear. Noah crawled over to him after about 20 minutes and grabbed his finger. Marcus looked at me with an expression I'd never seen on him before. Not confidence, not control, just pure, terrified wonder. I didn't smile, but something in my chest shifted, just a little. That night, after he left, I sat in the quiet apartment and thought about everything. What he did to me, what I did to him, what Elena did to both of us, and what I did to my own children by keeping their father away. Not for their sake, but for mine. None of us were innocent. That's the truth I keep coming back to. Marcus believed a lie because it was convenient. Elena built a life on manipulation, and I weaponized my own children's existence to punish a man who didn't know they were alive. We all had our reasons. Every single one of us thought we were justified. I don't know what happens next. Marcus comes by twice a week now. He's careful, respectful, never stays too long. Sometimes I catch myself watching him with the twins and feeling something I'm not ready to name, but I'm not rushing anything. I'm not falling into anything. Not this time, because I learned something through all of this. Forgiveness isn't about the other person deserving it. It's about deciding you're done letting the worst thing that happened to you run your life. And I'm getting there, slowly, but I'm not there yet. So here's where I need y'all to be brutally honest with me. 3 people in this story made choices they can't take back. Marcus believed a lie and destroyed the woman he claimed to love. Elena manufactured that lie to steal someone else's life. And me. I hid 2 children from their father because I wanted him to hurt the way I hurt. None of us were innocent. So if you had to rank us, worst to least worst, how would you do it? Who carries the most blame? Drop your ranking in the comments, because I guarantee nobody's going to agree. And I want to see that fight.